Good morning. So I'm having a bit of a repair day today. So I've brought my welder in because there's a part on the ride-on mower that needs welding. Also, my trolley here that I use quite a lot, well, the wheels has decided to snap off, so that needs welding in place. So it's useful I've got the welder. But I was going to go and grab it using the wheelbarrow here. But before I do that, it's got a flat tyre that needs sorting. So yeah, let's see if I can find a new tyre for that first. So having a look in the back of the shed here, we've got a few bits and pieces. And we've got a nice new tyre here. I think that's the right size. I'm a bit concerned that hole in the middle is the wrong size, so I might have to change the hub out. Let's get it out there and see. So it looks about the right size, but like I say, that hub does look wrong, so let's get the old one off. Now of course this would be easier if I could turn the wheelbarrow upside down, but somebody decided to use it the weekend and filled it with rubbish, which you now can't empty because the tyre's flat. Okay, that's got the wheel off at last, and I've checked the number there and the number there, so they're the same tyre, but like I said, the hub in the middle is different, so I'm going to have to try and take that off. Now these have an inner tube inside them. Now you should be using pry bars to get these off. I haven't got any, so I'm going to use the handles of the spanner just to pry that up and over like that on both of them, and fish the inner tube out and swap them over. Right. Right, so now to put the new inner tube and tyre on the old hub, got to make sure that you line up the hole there with the inflation point for the inner tube. Other than that, should go relatively easily. Much better. Right, well that's a new tyre fitted. Now this old tyre I'm going to put back in the shed because it's a little bit cracked, but it don't look too bad condition. The hub I'll shove in there, I don't know what that's actually for, but and the inner tube here, I've just inflated it to see what was wrong, and other than a little bit of cracking along the middle here, it looks to be in reasonable condition, so I might try and use a puncture repair kit on that and keep that as a spare. But you never know, you might see them again by the end of the video. Right, let's get this wheelbarrow emptied and then I can get the welder over for the trolley. Right, so trolley wheels. So there's this one here that's failed. I'll go more into why that's failed in a little bit. But you'll see the ones at the front there are different. That is because not long after we got the trolley, we took it around the corner and the wheels fell off like this. And they sold us their upgraded versions, which I personally think it's a con. They send out the cheap wheels, wait for you to break them, and then tell you can buy upgraded versions. But yeah, so let's get this off and I'll show you why it's failed. Okay, so why has this wheel failed? So it's pretty much the same size as the wheelbarrow wheel that I just did, but unlike the wheelbarrow wheel, this is a solid foam tyre, so you can't deflate it to get it over the hub. So this hub actually comes in two halves, two little cup shapes like that bolt together either side of the wheel. So the main bearing hub here, all the pressure's on that tiny little flange that's welded to one side of this, and that's all that was supporting it. So any sideways pressure on it, it's a lot of movement in that, and it's just, that's why it snapped. So the upgraded version is just a solid hub, and I guess they use some sort of pneumatic press to get the tyre on. So my plan is to just weld that back in from this side and then weld it again from this side as well. That does mean you're not going to be able to unbolt it and get the tyre off, but the way the trolley's lasting, I think that tyre's going to outlast the trolley easily. So yeah, I've given it a rub over with a wire brush as best I can, so we've not got too much rust. I am new to welding, so this might not go well. Now, I have got the bearings here, which I've got to be careful of. I know they don't like heat, but there's not a lot I can do about it. But I'm going to have a spray bottle on standby and a fire extinguisher as well if things go really wrong. But this isn't the first one I've done, so I know I can do it. Right, there we go. Not professional by any means, but it'll hold, and that's the important thing. Right, let's get this back on the trolley. Okay, so that's the trolley fixed. So now, on to our ride-on mower. So I know it looks awful. It's missing the bonnet because a tree fell on it, and the bag's on the seat because we store it outside, and I don't want the seat getting wet. But actually, it's in generally good condition. Problem is, I'm using this. I used to have a quad bike, and I'm using the ride-on mower instead because the quad bike failed, and the mower's not really up to the job. So, like I say, generally it is in good condition, but I'll show you what's wrong at the moment. Right, so this arm here, as you can see, it's supposed to be welded in place there. I think where I've just hit a few too many tree stumps and rocks and things, it's eventually snapped the weld off. So it's going to be interesting because that's the fuel tank there. It's right below the engine. So it's not a good place to weld. But unfortunately I can't do much about its location. But before I actually get on and fix this, it absolutely stinks down here. I think I must have run it through some chicken muck or something. So before I do anything else to this, I am going to give this a wash. Right, well that's still not clean, but it's a lot better than it was. So I'm going to put a couple of blocks on the front here and lift it up and then see what I can do about this bracket. Okay, well I've got it up on the blocks here, but I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to shove my head underneath it, because if it does drop off, I don't want to be underneath it. It's light, I can lift it, but not from underneath. So I've got the bracket here. I've cleaned the rust off the best I can on the wire brush, and that fits in there. So I've disconnected it from the bracket, so I'm not fighting that. I've wrapped a towel around the fuel line of the fuel tank. That's a wet towel. I haven't got a proper fire blanket, but I don't think it'll splatter and do anything up there, but just in case, that's damp, so it shouldn't burn. I've tried something I haven't used before, which is anti-splatter spray, so we'll see how that does, if that's any better. But yeah, let's try and weld this in place. Now I know you're not getting the best of angles, but obviously I don't want to damage my camera, so that's kind of important. But you can see there, that's the weld I've done on the corner there. I've gone up the crack there. I've tried to get it on the other side as well. So I think that's solid enough. But if I come around this side, underneath here, you can see the crack going across there as well. So I'm thinking, as I can get to it on this side, I'll try and weld that as well. Right, well there we go, that's the repair. I mean, the weld doesn't look good, but I don't think it's going anywhere, so I think we're okay. Right, now that's back on the floor. Next thing to do is try and readjust it so the deck's actually sitting level. So there's 3 points of adjustment underneath here. That's one of them there, and that's on its lowest setting. And then there's another 2 around the other side. So there's one just there, which is a right pain to get to. Well, that looks quite low adjusted. Then this one here as well does the front. So I am kind of wondering if it's missing one. I do feel that there should be another one like this on the other side, but there's no bracket for it. So I'll have a fiddle, see if I can adjust it, see if I can get it any better. Okay, well that took a fair bit of adjusting, but I've managed to get the deck level now. As I was going through it, I also raised the height of it as well, because that is on setting number 1. Now before, if you got it onto setting number 1 or 2, this was actually touching the floor, whereas now it's actually got clearance underneath it. But seeing as we don't own a bowls green, we don't really need it that short. So now number 1 is a decent cut height, I believe. But also, if you put it up at its maximum height, you can actually drive over rocks and things without damaging it. So hopefully that'll last a bit longer. But only time will tell. Right, so the last thing to do is I'm going to grease a few things, because there's things like this joint here, which I don't know the last time that was actually greased. So yeah, let's get on with that. Right, that's on. I'll clamp down tight. And pressure applied as well. Well, some of it went into it. Try again. Oh, come on. You got grease in there. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Grease coming out of somewhere else. Right, that's loosened. Come on, that should be loose enough to release now. There we go. Try the other side. Right, well that feels like it's full. There we go. Right, a little bit from around there, and a little bit from around there. That's what we want to see. Right, the only other thing, if you can see them, is those gears right down in there, which are for the steering. So. Okay, well that wasn't a bad morning. So I've got a working wheelbarrow, I've got a working trolley, and I've got a working lawnmower that's nice and clean as well. I'm going to have to keep on top of cleaning this because it only took a few minutes and it looks so much better for it. Yeah, right, so I'll put the welder away and get on with sharpening chainsaws now. I'll go on then. One last go. I don't know about you, but I think I'm getting worse. Oh well, it'll hold. Okay, on to chainsaws. So this is the first one. This is my one from home that I brought in the other day to cut down the pampas grass. Now, although the chain is actually still quite sharp, I will give it another sharpen, but that's quite sharp. The main problem is going to be in here because it is going to be full of muck. So let's see what that looks like inside. we go, that's better. Now the main thing to make sure is there's a little hole there where the oil comes out to lubricate the bar, so that's all clear. So yeah, let's get that back on. Okay, so that's it all back together. Final thing to do is just go around with a file here and sharpen the teeth. So it's just a case of going along, making sure you've got the right angle on there, and just a couple of strokes on each tooth just to make sure it's sharp. And obviously turn the chainsaw around so you're doing it from the other direction on every other tooth. But I'm not going to record that because that's boring, so just know that I've done that. Okay, so that's mine all clean, sharpened and looking good again. So now from my personal one onto the owner's personal one. Now he knows how to use this, apparently, but he doesn't know how to sharpen it, I don't think. Now last time I looked at sharpening this, he ended up having to buy a new chain because it was missing 4 teeth. So yeah, let's give this a good once over. Yeah, that's clogged. Now the only reason mine got that bad was because I was doing something I shouldn't be doing with it. Next question is, does it have any oil in it? Completely dry. Right, so I filled it up with oil and I'm hoping it's going to come out of this hole here. It's a very low viscosity oil. Is it low or high? I think it's low. Basically slow moving. So it won't run out of there immediately, but I'm hoping I'll get to see that come out of there before I put the chain back on. Now because he's been using it without the oil in there, despite it being electric one, you've still got to put oil in it. They recommend it with the battery ones for every charge. For the plug-in ones, they just sort of say every use and keep an eye on it. But it's done 2 things. So the chain here is incredibly clogged with all dry sawdust, which I'm going to have to sort out. And the bar here, because it hasn't had the lubrication on it where it's run, it's rounded over the edge here. So it's not too bad, it just needs a bit of a rub over with a file. That feels better. Yeah, let's try putting the chain back on and see if I can get it to do something. Maybe spray some oil on it. Right, well that's a bit better. Now just to go over it and sharpen it, I suppose. Before I do that, I'm going to take the battery out of this because the last thing I want it to do is start up when I'm not expecting it. God, what's he been doing with this thing? I don't actually know if it will show up on this camera. I don't think this camera does close up terribly well, but that tooth is absolutely mangled. Right, well considering that chain is only a month old at the most, it's quite mangled, so I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to go over it with a wire brush, just clean all this sawdust off so I can actually get to the teeth to sharpen them. Seeing the damage on this one, it's going to need a fair bit of sharpening, so I'll get back to you once it's done. Right, well that took forever. I don't know what he'd done to it. He snapped one of the teeth off, and several others he'd gotten square rather than at an angle. So he's obviously hit something hard. But I've managed to get them all relatively sharp. It took me a while as well to work out why it wasn't getting oil. There's a small hole in the bar that was blocked, but I've managed to unblock that now. So the way to check if the chain's actually got oil on it is to put it on a surface like this and just run it for a while, and you'll see a line of oil appear on the bottom there. So that line there shows that there is oil going onto the chain and it is coming off. So right, I'm going to go and give this a quick try on a log and just make sure it is actually working. Right, well that seems to be working well enough, and I think we might have found the culprit for the missing teeth. Yeah. Okay, right, well I'll give that back to him, see how long that lasts, and I'm going to go and find something else to fix now. Okay, well that's the chainsaw working. So, I have fixed the wheelbarrow, I have fixed the trolley, I have fixed the ride-on mower, I've serviced my chainsaw, and I've serviced the owner's chainsaw. So I think that's a good morning's work. I hope you enjoyed this video, something slightly different. I'm going to end this video here, but I'm off to see what else is broken. I'm sure it won't take me long to find anything else. But I shall see you later.